Hey everyone, this is Brian from ActiveMelody.com. Well, in this week's guitar lesson, I'm going to break protocol and go out of my conventional format and do a deep dive on a topic which is understanding how to mix the minor pentatonic scale with the major pentatonic scale. It's a topic that comes up over and over again. I get emails all the time from people. I see posts on the Active Melody forum as well. For people that want to know how do you do that, why would you do that, what's the advantages of that? And there's a lot of advantages. It can really help with your improvising and your lead work, knowing how to mix those two scales. You actually kind of come up with this hybrid scale, which is really cool. And it's really easy to do, and you're going to see that through the course of this video. I put together some visuals, so you'll see how the two scales overlap, and for those of you that are visual learners, you'll appreciate that. If you're an Active Melody Premium member, you'll be able to watch the Part 2 video that goes with this. So this is going to cover a lot of material. There's a little more material that's covered in the Part 2 video. You'll also be able to download the MP3 jam track that we're going to use to practice the licks that we learn. By the way, we're learning 6 licks total, so that go into that, combining those two scales. In this video, we're going to cover half of those. So you'll get those, and you'll also be able to download the tablature as well. So all those learning assets are available at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP130. So let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so we have a lot of material to cover in this video, and for some of you this may be a little redundant, but even if that's the case, bear with me, because there's going to be, I think there will be some light bulb moments for you as well. But the goal of this video, my goal for you, is to walk away with a much better understanding of what the minor pentatonic scale is, what the major pentatonic scale is, and most importantly, how those two scales overlap and the different licks that you can play out of that gray area between the two scales. It's really powerful, and it'll help your improvising quite a bit to understand it and to be able to visualize it and see that it's really not that difficult. I've got some visual aids that go with this as well to help kind of demystify it. I know a lot of you are stuck too. I get emails from people saying I'm playing the same old scales over and over again and I don't feel like I'm making progress. Well, this lesson is for you too. So if that's you, watch this. I think you'll get a lot of new ideas. So if you're a premium member, go ahead and download the 2 PDF files. I'm going to be referring to them and the different figures throughout. You can print it off, or you can just have it minimized, or whatever is easiest for you. If you're not a premium member, don't worry. I'm going to be able to show a lot of this on the screen anyway, so you can still follow along. Alright, let's get into lead, at least the mental approach to playing lead. This is how I think of it. I like to keep it very simple. There's a lot of options when playing lead. There's a lot of scales, there's 7 different modes, and you can just get overwhelmed. Where do I start? Which one do I choose? Well, I don't think that way. I think in terms of 2 paths. One, I'm either going to play something that sounds bluesy or sad, or it's going to sound happy or positive. Or, actually there's a third path. Or I'm going to combine those two and make this gray area, which will be a little bit of happy and a little bit of sad. So this is kind of an interesting analogy. If you think of those are your 3 primary colors, and out of those primary colors you get the entire rainbow. And that's really a good analogy of what you get when you're playing lead by combining those 2 scales. You look at artists like Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan, they stay pretty much in the minor pentatonic scale for most of what they do. They've made, and Clapton's obviously made an awesome career out of it, so did Stevie Ray. And so you don't have to know all the different modes and play them all the time. I think it's good to know, that's good knowledge, but let's try and keep it simple. Okay, so those are the 2 paths. Now, in the blues lead course that I have at Active Melody, there's 5 different patterns that we cover in the minor pentatonic scale. That whole course is really around the minor pentatonic scale, and I go over the 5 different patterns, and I give you sample licks and all of that. Well, we're going to be taking a look at 2 of those patterns in this lesson, and so we're going to start with pattern 1, and I want to go ahead and pull that up on the screen now for you, so as a visual reference. So what we're looking at is pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale for the key of A. It's another important thing to notice the color of these. So you're going to notice some are colored blue. Think of blue for blues or sad. Make it easy for you. And then there will be some others. The major ones are going to be red. So anytime, and then where there's overlap, it'll be purple. So it'll be blue and red mixed. But so anyway, what you're looking at is minor pentatonic scale for the key of A, and it's blue because it's bluesy sounding. Now, the first thing you do before you play a lead is you have to figure out where your root fret is. The root fret, everything hinges off that. That's how I think of it anyway. And so it's really easy to find the root fret. All you have to do is find, let's say in this example we're in the key of A, you would find where the A major bar chord is using the E shape. So what do I mean when I say the E shape? Look at these three fingers. If I were to slide it down, that's an E chord, right? Well, that's that same shape. I'm just capoing here with my index finger. And so wherever you're capoing, wherever you're barring, that's your root fret. So for the key of A, it would be here. For the key of G, it would be the 3rd fret. For the key of B, it'd be the 7th fret. So you can see that A is the 5th fret. Now that you've got that, you've kind of unlocked the whole thing. You don't even realize it yet, maybe, but you have, because from here I can play happy, I can play sad, I can do all this stuff just by knowing where that root fret is. You see that on the screen, and you also see the different notes in pattern 1. So let me just play through those real quick. I'm not going to call out the note names or the frets or anything. So you can see on these two, the first 2 strings, we skipped 2 frets in between those. And then on these 3 strings, we skipped 1 fret. 1, there's 1 there, there's 1 there, and then we skipped 2 again there. Alright, so with that pattern, if there's a song, we're just going to stick to like a 12-bar blues, at least in our minds for now. But if there was a 12-bar blues in A, I can play any of those notes that I just showed you, no matter what the chord goes to. That's another key here. You don't have to switch the scale to match the chord. You can, and that's a great technique, but that's not what we're talking about for now. Just stay in that key, and even if when the song goes to a D and an E, it's going to work. It's going to sound bluesy. Even if you just played right down the scale, you'll hear it. It'll sound kind of bluesy. So that's pattern 1. That's where a lot of rock and roll comes from. All of those licks I just played there came from that pattern. So now let's move on and look at pattern 2. Now you'll see that pattern 2 is just an extension of pattern 1. In fact, I've got pattern 1 sort of blurry in the background there, just so you can see it as a reference. So pattern 2 is right here. You have those 5 notes, and you can see these 2 notes are part of pattern 1. So each of these patterns they're just kind of build on each other, and the only reason I break them down into patterns is it just makes it easier to remember. Instead of saying here's the whole scale, we just think of it in parts, you know. And so anyway, so that's pattern 2. So that's where Albert King lives a lot of times. A lot of those kind of bluesy licks are right here in this pattern 2. Now you can slide from pattern 2 to pattern 1, and I know a lot of you already understand that. But anyway, my point in this is a setup so that we can take a look now at the major pentatonic scale for pattern 2. So let's pull that up on the screen. Now you'll notice that the color is red, but you're going to notice it's the exact same shape as the minor pentatonic scale. The only difference is we move everything down 3 frets this way. So if pattern 1 is here, pattern for the minor pentatonic scale, the major pentatonic scale, we go 1, 2, 3 frets. That's it. It's that simple. It's the same shape. So now that you've learned this, you've just unlocked the major pentatonic scale as well. And that goes for all the different patterns all the way up the neck. Alright, so let's pull it up again. And here's the major pentatonic scale. Pattern 2 is highlighted there for the key of A. And here's the minor pentatonic scale with pattern 2 being highlighted for the key of A. Back and forth. You can see it's the same shape. And that's why it's important to have that printout so you can really see it. Alright, so now let me demonstrate that. So if we're in the key of A, our minor pentatonic scale is the bluesy stuff. So that would be something like that. It kind of sounds bluesy, sad. The major pentatonic scale for the key of A, if we're staying in the same pattern, remember it's down here now, it would sound like this. So there's the chord. See, it sounds more positive. It doesn't sound quite as sad. I'm playing the same areas on both of those. Now, the major pentatonic scale pattern 2 is right here. It's those same 5 notes, right? And it happens to overlap, though, right here where minor pentatonic scale pattern 1 is. So right in the middle of what I just played there is this happy stuff. So that's why when you see licks like Freddie King doing stuff like that, he's dancing around between the minor pentatonic scale and the major pentatonic scale, just playing licks from both. And it allows you to play a lot of different things. And so that's why I've got 3, for this video, for this area, I've got 3 different licks that we're going to learn that combine those 2 scales, and you'll be able to see now and understand, oh, okay, so this note is part of the major. This note is a shared note between the 2, so that one would be coded purple, but you can start to see where those come from. So now let me pull up on the screen the overlap. So now what we're looking at is the entire overlap between those 2 scales. Now, if I just started with that, you'd be totally overwhelmed. That just looks intimidating. But you can see it's kind of the same. It's the same shape. It's just it's in 2 different spots. So what you can do with this is the blue notes are the notes that are going to sound bluesy. The red notes, or the red boxes, are the notes that are going to sound more positive or happy. And the purple ones are in both. So those are shared between the 2. So you can see there's really only 3 in pattern 1 here. But it's that combination, and I circled it there. I call it the sweet spot, and that's where you can play so many different licks, like the Freddie King thing. That's all happening by going back and forth. And so if you're playing, a blues, you can always go. That sounds happy or country almost. And all I'm doing is playing pattern 2. You can see it there. So I can bend here, bending on the 7th fret, 1st string. And again, that sounds positive or happy. Versus if I go up here, same note here between those 2, but by adding this note, it makes it sound bluesy. Versus, so it's a simple little thing really to look at that and see the 2 scales overlap, but that's the visual aid that you're going to want. So you can print that off, and hopefully that just having the chart alone will help unlock a lot of that for you. So now let's go ahead and take a look at 3 different licks that have been created by combining these 2 scales and how I got to them. So it'll make sense to you now that you've had that background. Alright, so you're going to want to download the jam track that comes with this lesson so you can practice these licks. If you don't have the jam track, or you're not a premium member, you can still follow along in the video, but you're going to have to find something to practice with. I mean, you can do the licks on their own, but it definitely sounds better to have it in context. So find something in the key of A. Otherwise, let's go ahead and get started. Alright, so this first lick is pretty straightforward, and as I call out the string numbers here, you're going to realize exactly why they work, and I'll point that out too. But this first note is played with a ring finger here on the 7th fret, 4th string, and then I use my middle finger on the 6th fret, 3rd string. Now that should be the aha moment for a lot of you that are stuck in the minor pentatonic scale, because you realize, wait a minute, that note's not in the minor pentatonic scale pattern 1. But it is in the major, and this is pattern 2. Remember pattern 2 where it overlaps there, so that's why that note works. Then I take my ring finger and play on the 7th fret, 3rd string, and then that final note there is on the 5th fret, 2nd string. Now another way you might do that would be to slide up to this note, but I didn't want to confuse it. I wanted to keep it exactly as with the notes that would fit in the chart there. So that's why I went to the 5th fret 2nd string. And then I went, just did a little bend there. It's a bend and release on the 7th fret 3rd string. There's a bend, like a full bend there. And then I pick it again and do the release. 5th fret 3rd string. And then 2 notes there on the 7th fret 4th string. And that's how that first part of it sounds. Now the second time through, I played it like that. So what I did there was 7th fret 4th string, 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 3rd string, and then I did a little hammer on to re-emphasize that note. And then I played another bend and release thing here on the 7th fret 3rd string. That time I didn't pick it out. I just did a bend, a slight bend and a release. 5th fret 3rd string, and then back to the 7th fret 4th string. And then for the 5 chord, or the E chord, I went, and that's just rocking back and forth between the 7th fret and the 6th fret on the 3rd string. So I started there on the 7th fret 4th string, 6th fret 3rd string. There's that major pentatonic scale note out of pattern 2 right there. Now watch this. So that's just leaving that finger down, and my ring finger goes down and off of the 7th fret 3rd string. And then there's the 5th fret 2nd string again. And then to conclude it, I went. So I played the 5th fret 2nd string, and then I did a full bend, and I went ahead and sort of did a pre-bend, picked it, and then released it on the 7th fret 3rd string. There's the bend. And then the 5th fret 3rd string, and then the 7th fret 4th string. And that's the whole part of that first little lick there. Now, if you don't have the jam track, you can still practice this, but you're going to want to find something in the key of A, some kind of a blues in the key of A. So let's back up one more time. We'll go through it. There's the first time through. Second time. And there's the third time. And that's really all we have for this first one. Now let's move on to the next one. Alright, so this lick has more of a kind of a Brian Setzer feel. I think I stole some of this from his work. But the first thing we're going to do is play this part. And what I'm doing is I'm starting here on the 7th fret 2nd string with my ring finger, and I slide up to the 8th fret 2nd string. Then back down to the 7th fret. 5th fret 2nd string. So you can see where those 3 notes, hopefully now that you understand the context of this overlap area, why I would start here. And why that would work. Then down to the 7th fret 3rd string, and then back to the 5th fret 2nd string. Now watch this. I'm going to go ahead and bar here with this finger so I can play the 5th fret 3rd string right after that. So it goes. And it's just alternate picking with the right hand. Down, up, down, up. Now after I play that note, that's the 5th fret 3rd string, I take these 2 fingers, my middle finger and my ring finger, and I come down here and play those 2 notes. So my middle finger goes down on the 6th fret 3rd string, and my ring finger goes down on the 7th fret 4th string. Now what are those notes? Well, if you're looking at the A bar chord, the A major bar chord, it's just those middle 2 strings in the chord there. So, but instead of playing the whole chord, I just play those 2 notes. So, and you can slide it down to give it a little flair or whatever, but that's that first part. Now the second time through I went, So that's a little different twist there. That part's the same. That's the same. That's the same. Down to the 7th fret 3rd string. But then I went to the 6th fret 3rd string. And then concluded there on the 7th fret 4th string with my ring finger. Why that note again? It's part of pattern 2. And so you can start to see, just from these few little licks that we're learning, how by combining those two scales, it's like, oh my gosh, you have all these possibilities. This is just one point on the neck where they combine. They combine in other points as well. So, and then watch this. That time I slid it, so I played those same two notes, slid them down 1 fret, and then back into position. Okay, so the second time through, it's just a repeat of that part of it, and then instead of playing this chord, I played this. So I borrowed the first 3 strings on the 5th fret and played strings 2 and 3. And then we're back. That's a repeat of that. And then watch this. And that's walking right up, starting in the minor pentatonic, walking right up the major. So we're starting 7th fret 4th string, 6th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 3rd string, and then we're on the 5th fret 2nd string. And I just play the 5th fret and the 7th fret on the 2nd string. Just like that. Let's back up from the beginning of this lick. We have now we repeat, change the chord. And then to conclude it, I did this run. I went. See how by going back and forth it gives it more of a jazzy type feel? It doesn't sound like you're so locked into that minor pentatonic scale. It just sort of opens up. It's like opening a window. Gives you a new perspective. So let's learn this. So that's 5th fret 1st string, 7th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 2nd string. See how that's minor or major pentatonic scale. 7th fret 3rd string, and there's a little hammer-on between the 5th fret and the 6th fret on the 3rd string. So we have ring finger goes down on the 7th fret 4th string, and then watch this. The last note is way down here. So I broke out of the minor pentatonic and went to the major by going to the 4th fret 4th string. Now where is this note? Well, pattern 1 is, if you look on your sheet, pattern 1 is here. There's that note. So you can go and come down here, and that resolves on a major sound. So it just colors it differently. I love that. Alright, so let's back up one last time through the whole lick. We have and there you go. Now we can just repeat it. So let's move on to the third. Alright, so lick 3, we're back into this pattern 2 of the major pentatonic scale, or at least visually that's where I'm starting or playing this. So I've got my ring finger down on the 7th fret 1st string, and I do a half bend. I don't do a full bend. I'm just bending it. When you do a half bend, you're only hitting the fret that's the note that's 1 fret higher than where you start. So that's the note. Versus That would be a full bend, but we're doing a half bend. So we're going, there's a bend and release. There's the 5th fret 1st string, 7th fret 2nd string. There's some vibrato, 5th fret 1st string. And then we conclude there on the 7th fret 1st string. So we have. Now we're going to repeat that exact lick. We're just going to resolve it on a different note. That time we resolved it on the 2nd string on the 7th fret. Now we're going to repeat that again. That's easy. It's just the same lick. But you can see that that lick would not work if you were just limited to that minor pentatonic scale. You're branching out of it a little bit. Now, to conclude it, I did go to the minor pentatonic scale, which colored it a much bluesier color when I went. That just sounds a lot more serious, or bluesy, I guess. So what I did for that is I went to the 8th fret 1st string, did a full bend, released it, and did like a little partial bend there. And then the last note there on that is the 5th fret 1st string. And then watch this. So that's just walking right down the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 1 for the key of A. 8th fret 2nd string, 5th fret 2nd string, 7th fret 3rd string, 5th fret 3rd string, 7th fret 4th string. Oh, and then I concluded by going sort of a little tag on the end. And all I did for that was, again, we're introducing the major at this point. There's our middle finger going down on the 6th fret 3rd string. Ring finger goes down on 7th fret 3rd string. Back to the 6th fret 3rd string. And then we conclude on the 7th fret 4th string. Let me back up and play all that.